and Georgie recently celebrated their fifth wedding anniversary. They have overcome the challenges of moving in together and meeting each other's parents. While there were some unpleasant moments along the way, their relationship remained strong. The first year was filled with emotional swings, but now they have achieved a calm and stable life together. However, this stability sometimes allows for certain individuals to take advantage. One evening, Eleanor had to attend a bachelorette party for one of her friends who was getting married. The plan was to enjoy activities such as visiting a spa, dining at a restaurant, and having fun elsewhere. Georgie was never the type to forbid his wife from doing anything. He had complete trust in her and knew how seriously she valued their marriage and family. Therefore, he never even entertained thoughts of infidelity. Additionally, he always fulfilled Eleanor's every wish and desire, providing a balanced relationship. While Eleanor was away late in the evening, Georgie received a bank notification about a significant sum of money being withdrawn from his card. He had left the card with Eleanor in case she wanted to treat herself to something. Georgie wondered why she needed the money, but quickly dismissed the thought. Money was never a concern for him as he had a well-paying job. He wanted his wife to enjoy herself, regardless of what she decided to purchase. Eleanor returned home around 2 in the morning, still carrying the scent of sparkling wine from the festivities. Exhausted, she told Georgie how much fun they had and immediately went to bed. Georgie lovingly covered his wife with a bedspread, gently turned off the light, and joined her in bed. About a month had passed since those events took place. Life continued as normal for Georgie, who had just wrapped up a meeting with a client at work. As lunchtime approached, he and his colleagues headed to the nearest cafe. While Georgie perused the menu at their table, his colleagues brought up a sensitive topic: strip clubs and their patrons. One of the coworkers began to share a story about a friend. One of Georgie's colleagues started sharing a story about a friend who had been working as a male stripper at a club for a couple of years. His stories about the customers were quite outrageous, leaving the group intrigued. Georgie's colleagues were eager for details, as none of them had any connections to that world. The friend, Adam, was careful not to initiate anything with clients to avoid getting fired, as not all customers were interested in taking things further. However, there was an incident about a month ago that caught everyone's attention. Adam had encountered a daring woman at a bachelorette party who was keen on continuing their interaction beyond the show for a fee. The story amused his colleagues, who laughed at the situation. While they found it entertaining, Georgie was not amused. He remembered that his wife Eleanor had withdrawn money that very evening, claiming it was to help a friend with additional expenses for a spa and dinner. The description of the woman matched Eleanor's appearance, making Georgie uneasy. The colleague continued to share that Adam had been tempted to meet the woman again, but declined the offer. "She's quite attractive, and according to him, not bad in bed either," the colleague added with a smirk. "He said she's a little married, but that doesn't bother him. He just wants to have fun and leaves the decision up to her." This was a decisive moment for Georgie. He felt dizzy, and the ground beneath his feet seemed to disappear. These coincidences were beginning to worry him. "There's no need to get nervous early. It could all just be a coincidence," he reassured himself. He decided to talk openly with his wife, even though it wouldn't be easy. However, when he got home, his wife was nowhere to be found. Sometimes she came home late from work, but it had been happening more often lately. Suspicious, Georgie thought to himself. Doubt had settled firmly in his mind, and he could no longer ignore it. At last, Eleanor came home, kicking off her shoes in the hallway with a loud noise. She resolutely tossed her bag onto the chair inside. "My boss made me write extra reports again. Can you believe it? I barely got out of those papers," she complained. She looked around for something to eat, opened the refrigerator, and met her husband's cold gaze. She closed the door and looked at him. "Eleanor, we need to talk," he began. "Why don't we eat first? I can fry some potatoes or order sushi," she suggested. "No, let's talk first. This is very important to me," he said in a low voice, lowering his head. His wife sat down across from him. "So, what happened? Where do I start?" Georgie thought for a moment, then decided not to beat around the bush. Tell me, Eleanor, are you cheating on me? For a split second, her eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly hid that reaction and smiled innocently. Darling, why do you feel insecure? How can I reassure you? We promised to be faithful to each other, and you know that I always keep my word, Eleanor said, looking at Georgie with a note of disappointment. Georgie looked at his wife in silence, apologized for his tactless question, and suggested that they go out to dinner. Eleanor's answer seemed too innocent, but he lacked concrete proof, so he thought, what's the point of making a scene? There's a better approach. After the meal, Georgie opened his laptop with a clear plan. He went to his co-worker's social media profile, searched for all the Adams listed as his friends, and found the right one. He was going to text this person to book a dancer for an upcoming event specifically for the women's group he was organizing a party for. Of course, the whole situation was fabricated, but Georgie wanted to find out if Eleanor was related to this dancer. Finding out the truth was imperative at all costs, for doubts were eating away at him. Georgie flipped through a page filled with friends with the same name. It wasn't difficult to identify the person he was looking for. The profile picture showed an imposing young man in a tight t-shirt, the kind worn on stage, not in everyday life. Georgie noted the young man's phone number on the page and checked the time. Okay, it's getting late. I'll call him tomorrow. He's probably busy right now. The next day, Georgie remained gloomy and silent. Eleanor preferred not to be interested in her husband's thoughts and said goodbye to him as they headed to their offices. As soon as all the employees had started their lunch break and there was no one around to overhear, Georgie dialed Adam's number. Good afternoon, Adam. My name is Georgie. I specialize in event organization, and I obtained your contact through satisfied acquaintances. I was wondering if we could meet and discuss the details. Georgie initiated the conversation. Delighted by the unexpected potential client, Adam agreed to meet that evening at a nearby coffee shop, around 5 o'clock, close to Georgie's office. When Adam arrived at the designated time, he saw a serious-looking man waiting for him. Georgie? Adam inquired. I'm Adam. Nice to meet you, Georgie said, shaking Adam's hand. They took their seats opposite each other, and Georgie began explaining the situation. He mentioned working in a small company and how their best employee, Eleanor, would soon celebrate her birthday. As a pleasant surprise, Georgie's colleagues planned to arrange a private dance for her at the party, which would take place at her home. Georgie emphasized that the team was small but highly supportive. To provide clarity, he decided to show Adam a photo of the birthday girl on his phone to observe his reaction. It turned out to be a picture of Eleanor. Adam's eyes widened in surprise, and a faint smile appeared on his face. That was enough for Georgie. It's almost as if you recognized the girl, Georgie said, trying to downplay Adam's astonishment and confusion. Adam hesitated for a moment. She does resemble an acquaintance of mine, but I doubt it's her. Anyway, let's get down to business, Adam replied, taking a sip of his coffee. Here's the plan. When you ring the doorbell, she should open the door and you say, Beloved, here I am at last. I found you. Don't ask about the backstory. It's a quote from a movie she loves. She'll understand. Georgie packed his travel bag, feigned a call to a cab, and bid farewell to his wife. He walked briskly away from the house, fully aware that Eleanor would soon leave and head to the neighboring house for self-pickup. His plan unfolded as expected. Approximately 10 minutes later, Eleanor emerged from their apartment. Georgie swiftly retraced his steps, barricaded himself indoors to avoid raising suspicions, and concealed himself in the furthest room. Now, all he had to do was wait. At exactly 7 o'clock in the evening, the doorbell chimed, catching Eleanor off guard. Curiosity piqued. She glanced through the peephole and let out a gasp of surprise before opening the door. Before she could utter a word, Adam's voice, thick with longing, filled the air. Darling, here. I am finally here. I found you, he purred. Eleanor couldn't believe her eyes. Adam. Wow, I was just about to call you, she exclaimed, hastily yanking him into the apartment and throwing herself into his arms. The bewildering nature of such coincidences didn't even have a moment to register in Adam's mind as Eleanor swiftly undressed him. We have the place to ourselves. Let's not waste any time, she chuckled. Without a second thought, the guy discarded his outerwear, effortlessly lifted Eleanor into his arms, and they headed toward the bedroom. Georgie stepped forward, interrupting the couple's sweet whispers, and coughed assertively. Eleanor pushed Adam away and fixed her husband with a deranged look. He remained silent, observing this chaotic scene unfold. He expected the canned phrases like, "It's not what you think," but Eleanor took him by surprise. "This is exactly how it happened. Spend more time on your work, and our relationship suffers because of it. Sam no longer pays attention to me, and I crave love and affection. I'm still so young, yet you live like an old man. Look at what you've led me to." Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself in a self-pitying gesture. Georgie wordlessly handed Adam the money for the private show, expressing his gratitude and patting him on the shoulder. Confused, Adam shuffled out of the apartment. "That's it, darling. We're getting a divorce. I'll take half of everything," Eleanor declared. "Go ahead. Rummage through the papers in the office, Eleanor. Take a look. It's all there. I earn a good income from my sales job." Georgie's voice surprisingly remained calm. "And it's with that money that you bought this young stud, right?" Her husband gestured toward the recently departed Adam. "You're correct. There will be a divorce, but don't assume you'll get half of the apartment. You should have read the prenuptial agreement more carefully." Eleanor squirmed on the bed, seemingly recalling the clause about adultery. Nervousness overcame her, and her arrogance began to melt away before their eyes. "Eleanor, I need to talk to you," started Georgie, his tone trying to convey a sense of calmness. "I believe it's time we address the situation. This is all becoming quite a joke, and I think it's clear that we don't understand each other." Georgie's words left Eleanor in disbelief. She quickly searched for an excuse, trying to come up with something on the spot, but Georgie was firm, knowing all too well how seriously he took matters like this. "There's no use trying," he said sternly. "You know I don't take this lightly. Please pack your things and leave. We'll settle this in court." Eleanor immediately burst into tears and pleaded with Georgie, but he remained unyielding. A week later, she began calling him, claiming she was pregnant. However, Georgie knew deep down that if she wasn't lying, the child couldn't possibly be his. His work stress had kept him away from his wife for the last few months. Eventually, the couple divorced, and it turned out that Eleanor's pregnancy was indeed the result of an affair she had after a bachelorette party. The news of her pregnancy didn't faze Georgie. He knew she would now have to chase after the father of her child, who happened to be a dancer. As for their assets, everything remained with him, leaving Eleanor with the choice of either moving in with her mother or her lover. However, Georgie was indifferent. The most important thing for him was that he had rid himself of an unfaithful wife. As the saying goes, an unfaithful wife is a stranger in the house. And Georgie couldn't agree more. Cheating Secrets podcast like me. Cheating.